Please join me in welcoming Rebecca and Bailey.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Rebecca Christ, and I am the Fresh Start. I work at Fresh Start, and I'm the Social Work and Special Projects Senior Manager over there. And you're going to hear a little bit more about Fresh Start at lunch, and so I won't go too in depth about Fresh Start right now. I really just want to say thank you first to Jen and Samantha and all the amazing organizers that made this event possible today, and for inviting us to be the nonprofit partner. We're so thrilled to be here. Fresh Start actually weaves resilience into everything that we do with our clients. And so what we did today as the workshop for today, we actually took what we do at Fresh Start and built a foundation from that and then tailored this to you all today. So we're really excited to share this content with you all. One thing I wanted to share on a personal level, I might sound a little bit nasally. I woke up with a little bit of laryngitis, which I was like, okay, not feeling perfect, but I'm able to be present. So it's all good, and I'm just rolling with it today with you all. I heard one of the speakers say that she was a recovering perfectionist, and I very much resonate with that. And I'm also very much in that recovery process of, finding the place that's good enough instead of trying to be perfect. Actually, when we were putting together this workshop for you all, the title of this conference just was working me from the very beginning. This concept of being present instead of perfect was an invitation that I think I needed. And I'm sure a lot of you ladies in the audience need that invitation as well. When we were first invited to do this, about a month after, I had a pretty significant personal loss in my life. And I share that with you because I think sometimes, and we're talking about resiliency, so we're talking today about things that aren't expected in our life, right? Different traumas or stressors that might come up that we don't expect, right? And so when this loss occurred, it sort of kind of threw me back on my feet and knocked the wind out of my sails. And I was nervous because I manage a team of amazing social workers, Bailey being one of them. And as their manager, part of what I need to do is be able to be present for them as they're being present for other women and holding space for other women. I need to be able to hold space for them, right? And so after this loss, I was taking it a lot harder than I could have ever expected. And it was really, it sort of threw me off my game, if you will. And then it dawned on me that I was putting together a presentation about how to cultivate resilience, and I could use the exact same things in this presentation in my own life to help me get through this loss. And so, get through it in the best way possible and actually bounce back and grow from it. And so everything that we're teaching you today, I actually used myself. And it helped me immensely. And so our intention today is for this to be very experiential and for you to take things away that you can actually use in your real life, both in your personal life and your professional life. So that's our intention today, and I hope that's what you can all gather from it today. And just invite you to be as present as possible. Sometimes it's harder than other times. And to just be an open heart and feel what works for you. Okay? So with that note, I'll hand it over to my amazing co-facilitator, Bailey Curry.
Hello everyone, as Rebecca mentioned, my name is Bailey Curry, and I'd like to introduce myself by giving you a little background into my own journey to growing my resilience. So in 2015, after many years of struggling to identify a host of mysterious physical ailments, I was able to finally get diagnosed with fibromyalgia. It was a blessing because I finally had that answer that I was looking for, and a curse because as I understood at the time, my symptoms were only going to get worse. At the same time, or around the same time, I started working for an organization called Seeds for Autism, working with adults on the autism spectrum, teaching them creative and vocational skills. Being able to see people who at times navigated the world with great difficulty, weave fabric and spin wood or turn wood into bowls was incredibly inspiring. I learned through their resilience that I could grow my own, and that even though I might be struggling, I didn't have to give up on my goals. And we're going to begin that process in your own journey today by inviting you to participate in a quick exercise. So if you feel comfortable doing so, please stand up if you have ever lost someone you truly loved, experienced heartbreak, gone through a divorce, or been the victim of infidelity.
Please stay standing. If you've ever experienced a natural disaster or been bullied, please stand up.
If you've ever experienced a miscarriage, an abortion, or struggled through infidelity, please stay standing.
If you or anyone you love has had to cope with mental illness, dementia, or some form of physical impairment, or cope with suicide, please stand up. We didn't expect everyone to stand on the first piece, but I want you to look around you and see that adversity touches everybody. Right? There's no sort of magic wand that we get to avoid the adversity in our lives. So thank you for participating in this. We'll have you sit down. We want to normalize the process of experiencing adversity in our lives because adversity is going to happen, right? So what is resiliency? Resiliency is the process of adapting well in the face of significant forces of stress, right? So that could be a significant trauma, right? But it also could just be really significant stress over time, chronic stress in our lives, which I think most of us in this society are experiencing, right? So resiliency is actually very, very common. It's among all of us. Every single woman in this room has what we're going to talk about today, has the factors we'll talk about today that build up resiliency. So today is not about finding something new. Today is about crafting something that's already within you, cultivating something that's already within you. And many of you have probably heard of the growth mindset and this concept that we can take things, we can take the adversity in our lives, we can take the challenges, we can take mistakes, and we can turn them around and make them an opportunity to grow. So we have a choice, and that was talked about this morning, right? We have choices. So we can make a choice about whether or not to see our adversity as something that's making us a victim of our lives, or see our adversity as something that's an opportunity to grow.
And resilience isn't something that you're born with necessarily. It's not a trait that you either have or don't have, and it's not a percentage. I don't have 50% resiliency, and Rebecca's 75, and we're stuck with that for the rest of our lives. It's a series of skills and behaviors that we develop and grow over time. And having high resiliency doesn't mean that these adverse experiences don't affect you, that you're not feeling stressed during these things. Instead, having a high degree of resiliency means that you're able to go through these situations more quickly, experience the stress more easily, and to navigate them in a more healthy way.
Resiliency is not a trait. So we're going to go through 10 common factors of resiliency. And at Fresh Start, we have an amazing executive board member. Her name is Dr. Cynthia Leitz. And she is the ASU, she's the Vice Dean at ASU College of Public Programs and Community Solutions. And she's also a researcher and a professor. And she's gifted us with some of her knowledge at Fresh Start. We're going to share that with you all today. So the 10 factors that we're about to go through are based on her research. And what she did in her research is she actually did a review of all the different kinds of research around resiliency that already existed. And she found all these different factors that kept popping up over and over again in all these different forms of research. So regardless of the population, these are the factors that were the most commonly found among resilient people. So these factors aren't the end-all be-all of resiliency, okay? So there's like hundreds of factors that can make someone resilient. But in the research, what she found was these 10 factors were the most common, despite anyone's sort of socioeconomic status or where their walk in life was. These were the most common factors that she found over and over again. So as we go through these, the invitation is for you to not look at these and say, oh, I'm not doing that right? Or, oh, I don't have that one, I'm not good at that one. Instead, we want to invite you to look at these and find the ones that you actually already possess, because you definitely do. I'm very confident that everyone in this room possesses at least one or two of these factors already, okay? So as we go through these, sort of identifying yourself, what factors and how they've shown up in your life already, as an invitation to maybe more mindfully integrate them into your life moving forward.
So we're going to begin with social support. And I'm going to kind of introduce this factor through a story. So one day, a man is walking down the road and he finds himself falling down a deep hole and he can't get up. A doctor passes by and the man yells out, "Doctor, doctor, you have to help me. I'm stuck in this hole and I can't get out." And the doctor looks down and he writes a prescription script, throws it in the hole, and walks away. And then next a priest comes and the man yells out, "Father, Father, you have to help me. I'm in this hole and I can't get out." The father looks down the hole, writes a prayer on a piece of paper, throws it down the hole, and walks away. Next, a man's friend comes. And the man says, Joe, you have to help me. I'm stuck in this hole and I can't get out." And Joe looks down the hole and jumps in with him. And the guy says, "Are you crazy? Now we're both stuck in here." And Joe says, "Yeah, but I've been through this before and I know how to get out." So using this example, think about the people who exist in your life already that you can lean on, that you can ask for advice, that you can ask for help with. And in fact, social support is a key factor in our resiliency. Often we are not alone in our lives. No man is an island, that sort of thing. And we have people who are in our lives already, maybe naturally, friends, family, or professional support that you can lean on, maybe a superior, a doctor, therapist. And when we are able to take in these multiple viewpoints and lean on people for support, we're able to make our decisions for future choices in a stronger way.
So the next common factor is insight. So we see this factor over and over again. Bailey and I work with amazing women at Fresh Start that are going through some really difficult times in their lives. And this is a piece that we get to see over and over again, we're blessed to see over and over again. And insight is this ability to sort of step back from your situation and gain an understanding and take a different perspective. So I mentioned that growth mindset, right? Where we might take an opportunity to look at some setbacks in our life as actually something that could bounce us forward if we take it as that opportunity, right? If we allow ourselves to have that insight. Another way to look at this could be that, how do you frame things when things go wrong, right? How do you look at things when things go wrong? Are you allowing yourself to step back, or are you stepping into that victim role, right? So with that piece, there's a lot of different places that we can cultivate our insight. We can do that in a therapy room with a social worker, right? We can do that journaling, which we're going to do that today. We can do that just by getting still and breathing and being with ourselves, right? And we're going to do that today in this workshop as well. So giving yourself an opportunity to look at the difficulties in your life as something that can actually grow you.
There's a quote by author Ping Fu, and he says, "Bamboo is flexible, bending with the wind, but never breaking, capable of adapting to any circumstance. Your ability to thrive depends, in the end, on your attitude towards life circumstances." When we're able to think outside the box and are willing to take in additional viewpoints, we become better problem solvers. So think about what other disciplines can you incorporate in the work that you do? What other viewpoints, what life circumstances might be a strength in your ability to navigate the decisions that you have to make in your daily life?
The next one is initiative. So seeing a problem or need and taking action. And we actually chose this piece of artwork very intentionally because my guess is that there's a lot of women in this room who are overachievers, right? And we probably do a lot of this already, right? We take initiative, we see a problem, we fix it, right? And this is actually an invitation to see rest as taking initiative, right? So an example from my story, when I had that grief wash over me, and I was going through these factors and developing this content, I realized, you know what? Sometimes the initiative is to just stop and to just be with what's happening, right? And so I know that so many women, many of our clients,
it feels weird or wrong, almost overwhelming to take a beat, right? To take a bath, for example, you know, or just take a couple of seconds to yourself. Because there's a million things on your to-do list, right? The speaker this morning talked about that, how there's so many things that are going on that it feels hard to even take a moment to rest. But in fact, that's a part of your initiative, right? So you can take the initiative to take care of yourself. So that's our invitation to you today with this piece. My guess is that you don't need encouragement to get going, but rather the encouragement to pause and rest.
And once you know what you would like to do, how do you keep that momentum going? One way is through the concept of economics, developed by economist George Schelling. Schelling came up with the idea that much like our finances, we can invest into ourselves. Because you're going to be you in 5 months, regardless of whether you've engaged in self-care or gone to the gym. And so just like our bank accounts, we can make small steps into ourselves, into the actions that we would like to do so that we can reap the rewards of that investment down the line.
Humor. So this is the ability to be lighthearted even in the face of challenges. So one of the examples that I like to think about with this is when we're one-on-one with our clients and they start to laugh about something that maybe someone from the outside would be like, why are you laughing about that? Right? But that sort of dark humor that can come with those tough times in life, that's a factor of our resiliency, right? Whenever I'm walking by our domestic violence support group and I hear roaring laughter coming out of that group, I know healing is happening there, right? One of the, just a little lighter of a story, Bailey actually shared with me that she got into a skateboarding accident a couple of months back. And her arm was in a sling and her hips were hurting, and she had to take her car to the dealership. And so she dropped her car at the dealership, took a lift back home, all the way back home, and the second she put her foot on the pavement, she realized she had left her keys all the way at the dealership. She's like, ugh. So this is an opportunity for her to get really, really pissed, right? Right? It would be, no one would fault her for being really, really mad. But instead, you took it as an opportunity to laugh at how absurd it was that someone in their 30s got into a skateboarding accident and now is in this sling and this comedy of errors, right? So this is another sort of mindset piece, right? When something goes wrong, can we find the comedy of errors, right? So inviting you to find the humor whenever possible.
And another way is setting boundaries. So as Rebecca mentioned, sometimes we find ourselves taking on too much. Often we want to present ourselves to other people as being professional and capable. Maybe we have people underneath us who are relying on us to do the work and to make sure that the work is done. But oftentimes what can happen, and this is true for me as well, is that we take on too much, we find ourselves overworked, underslept, stressed, and burnt out, and then not only are we feeling terrible, but sometimes the work doesn't get done or it's not up to our standards. Setting boundaries is at its core, showing respect for ourselves and towards other people, and teaching other people how to show respect to us. So what might seem at the moment as something to feel guilty about, saying no or putting something aside to take care of later, is showing that you're willing to take steps to put momentum into the future so that you don't find yourself burnt out.
The next one is morality or spirituality. So this encompasses our value system. So this is really our sort of internal compass of what's right or wrong. Where are our values and how do they guide us? So this could be based in spirituality or religion, but it doesn't have to be. It's really about what our value systems are. And when Dr. Leeds was doing the research, she found that many of the people that were resilient had a core understanding of what their values were, so that when they were faced with difficult decisions, they could make those decisions based on that value set. So as professionals in this room, I wager to bet that many of you have come across decisions that are really difficult to make. And the more that we know our own values, the easier that those decisions can become, right? So this might be an area for you, if this doesn't resonate, that might be that area that you can tap into today. What are some of my values? Maybe some of my values are setting boundaries, healthy boundaries, right? Maybe some of my values are connecting with my support system. So looking at what your values are and how that helps you guide yourself through those difficult times in life.
And appraisal. So as we mentioned in the beginning, people who display a high degree of resiliency are able to make meaning from situations, able to find answers in seemingly random sets of circumstances, and are able to think, utilizing that information, how well they're going to be able to face that situation again. Because quite often we are faced with similar situations going through, or we are putting ourselves in positions where stressful situations might manifest again. So utilizing the information that we have at our disposal from past experiences to inform and to build skills in order to problem solve for the future. And one way that I like to do this when I'm teaching my groups is to say that I love mistakes. And people think that I'm crazy because mistakes are often seen as a bad thing or a personal failing. And at Seeds in the Weaving Department, I put up a sign that says, approach all mistakes with humility and grace. Because when you consider a mistake as an opportunity to grow, to learn, to get better, and to recognize that you put yourself in that position in order to try and to do good, then they're no longer mistakes. They're opportunities for growth.
All right, so those are the factors, and we'll come back to them, so don't get nervous. And I believe you're going to get a copy, a PDF copy of all this as well, so if you need those factors again, you'll have that copy. Now we're moving into this idea of ongoing practice. So this idea that every day isn't the same, right? So some days are a lot better than others, and this gentleness, there's sort of an invitation of gentleness around mindfulness, right? This artwork says, just trying to stay grounded, right? Just laying on the floor. This was me right after that loss, right? And that's what I needed to do. If I had tried to hustle, right, and fake it, and not be present with what was really going on for me, there's no way I could have been a good manager for Bailey and my team, right? Because I wouldn't have really been present. I would have been faking being there. Right? So instead, what I really needed to do, and what I gave myself the opportunity to do through this work, was to rest and be present with what really is there, right? Mindfulness is the opportunity to be present with what is without trying to change it, right? And oftentimes we characterize emotions as bad or good, right? And when we characterize it that way, it makes it seem like we're wrong for having a negative or bad feeling emotion, right? But emotions are information. They're information for us. So the more that we can practice presence, the more that we can tap into what we really need. So I think just from working with women, I know that this is something that so many of us struggle with, of tapping into what's really going on with our bodies, what's really going on inside our own minds, right? We tend to push and shove things down that don't feel so good because we aren't sure how to deal with it, right? So part of building and cultivating our resilience is to practice presence with ourselves. And that's why the name of this conference is so perfect, because we're never gonna get to perfect, right? We can get to present though. We can develop practice of presence. So not only in the difficult times is it important to tap in. You know, when I had that loss, it was so important for me to tap into what was really going on for me so that I knew when was it time to maybe call my therapist, right? When was it time for me to lay on the floor in a puddle of tears? When was it time for me to go back to work, right? It's also important for us to recognize that stress also happens when things are good. So there's something called eustress. And it's this concept that when things are going well, right, we get married or we have a baby or we get a promotion, those are all beautiful things, but they cause stress in our lives. So the body actually still processes the good things as stressful, which seems so unfair, but the body definitely does. And for that, I feel that the importance of that is that it invites us to continue practicing self-care and our stress management techniques even when life is beautiful, right? Even when life feels really good and juicy, we still need to be practicing self-care because our body is processing stress no matter how good things are. are or how hard they are. So this is this invitation to develop an ongoing practice. And so we're going to move into some different practices with you today, some different meditation practices and ways for you to tap into yourself. Okay, I'll hand it back to you.
So one way in order to tap into ourselves is through the practice of body scanning. And body scanning is a way that we can identify our body's baseline so that when stressful situations start occurring, we can identify what areas are the trigger points to that stress. So for me, a lot of the times it's my shoulders, my upper back, maybe for you a little bit of stomach issues. However your body manifests those stress responses, and being able to attune yourself to them so that you're able to identify them and course correct as needed. And we're going to practice body scanning right now, so if you feel comfortable doing so, putting your feet flat on the floor, hands in your lap or at your side, letting your eyes close or softening your gaze as if softening the focus on camera. And bringing all of your focus and attention to your breath. Feeling the air as it travels in through your nose, down your throat, expanding your lungs before traveling out again. Feeling the temperature change as you breathe in and out. Noticing the length of your breathing, if it is long or short, labored or quite easy. Acknowledging this pattern of breath without judgment, just as it is. And as you bring awareness to your breath, notice how it may change or stay the same. If you find your mind has perhaps wandered now or at a different point, know that this is normal, and that at any point you can bring your focus back to your breath, constant and ever present. Transition now to bringing your focus to the top of your head and picturing there the image of a bright light hovering just above your crown. And as you imagine this light, let it travel slowly down towards your face, imagining it passing over your forehead, your eyebrows, eyes, nose, mouth. Letting everything soften and unfurl as it travels slowly down. And as the light travels, notice any areas that call out for your attention. Pause there for a moment and let the messages come to you without judgment. Maybe there's an old injury asking for your tenderness, or stress tensing your muscles. These messages are important, and you can decide how to address them later, but for now, let the light travel down, down, slowly, reaching your toes. And if you reach that point, letting the light encompass your whole body, letting awareness come into your entire being and just letting yourself be as you are. When you feel comfortable doing so, letting your mind travel back into the room, back into your body. Maybe wiggling your fingers and toes as you slowly open your eyes. How are we feeling?
So now that we're a little bit more present and maybe a little bit more sleepy, we're going to turn back to these factors. And what we're going to have you do is you'll turn to your neighbor and share share one of these factors and how they show up in your life already. So we're really wanting to focus on your strengths right now. Instead of what am I lacking, what do I already see that I have, right? If this is difficult for you and you're like, I have none of them, think about what one of your friends or a good coworker might say about you, okay? Maybe think of an example that they might say how you've demonstrated one of these, okay? So we'll turn you loose and just share one factor and how it showed up in your life already. Conversation. We're going to bring it back now. So much good sharing, so many people smiling, and sharing our strengths. I can see the joy as you share your strengths together, right? And how it feels to share our strength. How it feels to share something that we're already doing right? Instead of focusing on what's not there, focusing on what's there, okay? So that's the invitation today. Thank you for being chatty and together today. That's so good. It's so good. So we're going to do another practice with you.
So building off this idea of what's there already, I want to introduce you to a technique that I've recently developed, although if you see this anywhere else, it could exist somewhere else, I know. But for all intents and purposes, I invented it. So for anyone who might be familiar with improv or improv comedy, you might recognize the concept of yes and as one of its cornerstones. It's the idea of accepting what has been given to us and working with it. And we can adapt this into our everyday life by acknowledging the situations that we find ourselves in, and rather than solely focusing on the positive, which is in itself kind of a denial, we're fighting against the reality that we find ourselves in. Or instead of wallowing in it and only focusing on the negative, taking that information and utilizing the strengths and the coping skills that we already have in order to promote problem solving and resiliency. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to practice this, but I'd like to provide a little bit of an example in addition to the ones that are listed up there. So yes, I want to get in shape and lose weight, and I can accept my friend's invitation to go hiking next week. And we can utilize this in areas of self-esteem and self-appraisal as well, in that, yes, I can be perfectly happy the way that I am now, and recognize that I can get better. So utilizing the examples that we have here and the ones that I provided, go ahead and turn to a partner and think about something that maybe that you're facing today, and identify a way that you can utilize the system of yes and in order to problem solve.
Go. Coming back to the center. Yes. I saw like aha moments over here somewhere. Sort of this, I can. Oh, I actually can. I can. Right? This mindset of problem solving. Right? This opportunity to solve our problem with an invitation of yes and. Thank you for your amazing invitation and invention. So we're going to move into our hearts now with gratitude. So I'm sure most of us in this room have heard about the power of gratitude, the science, the research, the amazingness behind having a gratitude practice, right? Right? Instead, what I want to share is actually a little bit about the heart itself and the power of our heart and the science behind our heart. So there's an institute called the HeartMath Institute, and they're in California, and they do some amazing research around the power of our hearts. And I want to read just some of these facts that they've found in their research. I think they're powerful. The heart is the most powerful generator of electromagnetic energy in the body. The heart's electric field is about 60 times greater than the amplitude of the electrical energy generated by the brain. The magnetic field produced by the heart is more than 5,000 times greater in strength than the field generated by the brain. The electromagnetic energy of the heart not only envelops every cell of the human body,
but also extends out in all directions around us, and they can measure this now. So our cardiac field actually touches, that electromagnetic field actually touches those around us within 8 to 10 feet around us from what they can measure right now. So we are actually in each other's heart spaces right now. Right? It sounds super fluffy, but there's actually research behind it, which I think is beautiful. So one person's heart signal can affect another person's brain waves. And the heart-brain synchronization can occur between two people when they interact. So you've actually been feeling this today by connecting to each other. That's part of the energy that you're feeling. It's actually scientifically there, which is really cool. So we're going to get into our hearts with a little meditation, another meditation for you. So if you feel comfortable, you can put both feet on the ground, put all your stuff to the side, find a comfortable position. If you feel safe, you can close your eyes, or just pick a spot in the room and gently focus your eyes on. And begin to breathe naturally and consciously. And focusing your breath in your heart. Feeling the expansion on the in-breath and the contraction on the out-breath. This is an opportunity for you to feel compassion towards yourself, to understand what you've gone through and experienced in your life, and to express love towards yourself. Without moving too deep into your emotions, take a minute to reflect on what you've gone through in your life. Whatever comes up is okay. What you've experienced. Just for the sake of understanding who you have been and who you are now. This life path you're walking. And with this understanding, breathe into your heart. You might even touch your heart, putting a hand over that heart space, that powerful heart space. Being caring and tender and loving towards yourself right now. Showing yourself compassion. Just as a mother embraces a child, embracing yourself with this compassion. Mothering yourself. This ability to express compassion is one of your natural qualities, no matter what you've experienced in your life. Breathing into that compassion for a moment. And now inhaling and exhaling through the nose, keeping that attention in the area of your heart. Take a moment to invite in gratitude, to be grateful for breathing, for being alive right now. You can choose a person or thing that you're grateful for in your life. And say to yourself, I thank you for, and fill in the blank. Just notice how this gratitude feels in your body. Appreciating the person or situation or thing that you're grateful for, feeling whatever you value about them, what it brings to your life. Breathing deeply into your heart and allowing the feeling, the energy of gratitude and appreciation to spread from your heart everywhere into your body. Now spreading that energy of your heart around your body into the space that surrounds you. If you can, spread it to everyone in this room.
with gratitude that you're here today, heart to heart, touching one another with your heart's energy. Resting in this gratitude, in this heart space. Now taking a deep breath, return the focus back to your heart. Now slowly moving your attention to your breath. Expanding and contracting each in and out breath. Gently moving the focus from the breath to the entire body. And then gently shifting it to the room. And when you're ready, come back into this space. Everybody doing okay? And if those are difficult for you, difficult practices to tap into, sometimes it's powerful to just recognize the power of it. Right? Just sit in that gratitude, the power that can have. So this is another invitation for you all to bring this practice, when we talked about ongoing practice, bring a practice of heart space into your life. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a long meditation. It could be something as simple as just sharing with someone else 3 things that are good in your life. We actually teach this at Fresh Start with our clients. It's called 3 What's Good. And you just choose 3 things in your life that are good right now, no matter how big or how small. So it could be like, I had a really good burrito for breakfast. Okay? Or I can't think of anything I'm grateful for, so like I'm breathing, you know? And what's amazing about a gratitude practice, and many of you probably have heard this sort of research and input, but the more that we do it, the deeper that it becomes. Because it actually trains our brain to scan for the positive in our life. So our invitation to you today is to take this practice home, take it to your workplace. Maybe find a buddy that you can share 3 things that are good in your life every day. You'll be amazed how that can evolve, right? From, I liked my burrito, to finding just the most nuanced things to be grateful for. And this builds our resiliency, because when things are really, really hard, it's hard to find the good in life, right? It's hard to scan for the positive. But if we flex that muscle every single day, then when something knocks us down, it's gonna be a lot easier to find something that's good, okay? So it's neurological, okay? So the invitation is to bring this back to your workplace, bring this back to your personal lives. Maybe put a what's good board up in your brain work, right? An invitation to actually bring gratitude into your life in a genuine way. Not just a, yeah, life's good, you know, but really scanning for purpose. So thank you all for participating in that with us.
So now that our hearts are open and we're showing gratitude for ourselves and our lives, it's time to take some of the things that we've learned today and start making a plan to put them into practice going forward into the future. At Fresh Start, one way that we do this is creating SMART goals. This might be something that you're familiar with already. It's a way of knowing what we want to do and maybe the steps that we know that we need to do to get there, and creating a plan that makes it obtainable, that makes it easy to put into practice. So think about something that perhaps you're already doing that you'd like to expand on, or something new that you'd like to implement in your daily life, and ask yourself, is it specific? So identifying what it is that we'd like to do and being as detailed as we can. Is it measurable? How do I know that I've made progress in achieving this goal? Is it attainable? Is it something that is realistic that I can do in order to reach these steps? And what are the steps that I need in order to get there? Is it realistic? Is this something that I care about, that I'm going to be able to keep doing day in and day out, even if I don't reach it there tomorrow? Is it time sensitive? So many of us start the New Year's resolutions and we think we'll get there eventually, or like they were saying in the nutrition course, I'll start my diet tomorrow. When do we want to start, and when do we know that we'll finish? So take some time now. We're going to and some of the techniques that you learned, and think about something that you'd like to implement into your life and utilize the SMART goal format in order to build an action plan for yourself.
So we're going to set you loose one last time because we're about to close. So turn to your neighbor and briefly share one thing that you want to take from today's lesson and implement it into your life in a smart way. So in a way that's time-bound, it's specific. How are you actually going to use this stuff, okay? If you didn't have a chance to share how you're going to implement this, I invite you to write it down in the journal that you were gifted, okay? So this is an ongoing practice, so you don't need to get it all done right now. But you can take this forward into your daily practice, okay? Bailey's going to share a closing with you.
So there's a Buddhist parable that talks about 300 monks that were invited by a village to come and live in the village. And this village was right off of a forest where the forest spirits lived. And every day the monks would go into the forest and they would meditate for hours before coming back. And the forest spirits initially were okay with this. They thought, okay, this is going to be a temporary thing, this is fine. But as the monks kept coming back, they began to become agitated, angry with the monks for not showing reverence to them, for coming into their home uninvited. And so the forest spirits devised a plan that they were going to transform themselves into evil spirits to project horrifying visions to the monks in an effort to scare them, and it worked. The monks went to the Buddha and they said, please don't make us go back into this forest. It's terrifying. The spirits are trying everything they can to get us out of there. And the Buddha said, you're going to go back because you didn't have the tools to face them, and now you will. And what the Buddha taught them was metta, was loving kindness, was just compassion. And so the monks went back into the forest the next day and they practiced their meditations with this loving kindness, thinking on the spirits with friendship. And soon after practicing, after getting better, the forest spirits began to recognize the love that the monks had for them. And they understood that they were showing this reverence that they wanted, and soon they began to look at the monks as friends. And they didn't project the evil images, and they let them be. We can utilize this in our own lives by showing compassion to ourselves, but also to the situations that we find ourselves in. Thinking about our stressful situations not as something that we need to fight against, but as a natural part of our life that we can get through. And it's our attitude about these situations that makes all the difference.
So with that, we just wanted to say thank you so much for having us. Thank you for inviting us to be the nonprofit partner. And let's go enjoy lunch. Thank you.